Hello, everyone. Welcome to our new Save the Stang series, program, project. I don't know what to really call it, but what we're trying to do, if anybody's seen some of the older videos I did about trying to get this old Stang started, is I want to try to take this Mustang, which is a 67 Sports Sprint coupe, and turn it into a nice, safe, fun weekend driver. My dad is the original owner of this car, so it has a lot of sentimental value to me. He bought it brand new in 1967 at the dealership up in Buford, Georgia. So the fact that it's still in the family is pretty phenomenal. Now, it's been sitting in his garage for over 20 years now. We figured it out that it's been parked since 1997. We have, over the past couple of weekends, verified that the engine still runs. We actually have managed to get it started. Again, if you've watched some previous videos that I'll link here, you'll see that. So now the goal is to get it back on the road. I estimate that it's going to cost about $15,000 to $20,000 to get it back where we want it to be. Because I'm not just trying to restore it back to stock, because honestly, this is not a specialty Mustang. It's just a coupe with an inline six. It is a Sports Sprint edition, which means that it came with an automatic transmission. So it's a C4 automatic transmission. It came with a special shifter, a vinyl covered shift handle, and then it came with a chrome air cleaner in there. But other than that, it's really just a plain Jane coupe. So it doesn't have a lot of special collector value like the Fastback does, or a Shelby, or a convertible, or a GT, or a California Special, or any of these other specialty models of Mustang. So the real value would be coming and getting it back where it's not only drivable, but where it's safe and fun, because right now I live in the South, and in the summer it gets very hot, and that car has a black vinyl interior. And I can tell you from having driven it as a teenager, because this was also my first car after I got my driver's license, it gets very, very hot. So having air conditioning is a pretty important deal down here. So we want to add that in there. It's four-wheel drum brakes. So it's not the best stopping car in the world, and they're non-power brakes. So I want to convert it to disc brakes, preferably all the way around, but at least on the front. I also would like to rebuild the suspension on it. Again, it's the original suspension that's in there, original springs. Heck, by looking underneath, I think some of the bushings and all that may still be original. So definitely need to rebuild that. I would love to put in a rack and pinion system, again, to give better control. Don't see any reason to put power steering on this car. It's very light. I actually want to keep the inline six in there. So that's like I said, all it's got is that 200 cubic inch inline six. It's a very simple, very basic, but very reliable engine. When I was driving that car as a teenager, I did a lot of stupid stuff that I'm not going to own up to right now. But that car never broke down on me where I couldn't fix it on the side of the road, except for one time. And that's when I did completely blow the engine up. But that's a whole nother story. So I want to keep that engine because it's good. It's reliable. It's got plenty of power. I'm not out to turn this thing into a street rod. Again, I just want to make it a nice, fun, safe driver there. So, but again, having a good suspension on it, in steering. So maybe a coil-over suspension with rack and pinion would be really good to make that happen. So it corners well, it stops well, it handles well, so that when I do pass this down, because ultimately the goal is to restore this to the point where it's fun, safe, and I can pass it down to future generations of our family. Like I said, with my dad and mom being the original owners, then me having it as a kid. The car I was driving when I first met my wife, and we started dating. And so all of our first dates were in that car. My sister had it and while I was in the Navy, and she had her first kid. So she was taking her son around in that car for his first year or two of life. So a lot of firsts for him were part associated with that car. Just there's a lot of sentimental value in this car for us. So being able to get it to a state where we can help pass it down to other, future generations, nieces and nephews, because I don't have any children myself, is really a goal here. But to give it to them in a state that it's safe and whatnot. Of course, the other parts we got are basic mechanics. We know that the radiator's leaking from getting the engine started. We know the thermostat's got to be replaced because it was overheating a bit. We started that the other weekend. I can tell you about that issue. That was fun. Which probably also means the water pump needs to be replaced. The brakes, even before conversion, just to get it out of the garage, need to be reworked. So we've got to do that. Then there's a lot of body work that needs to be done. We know that around the left wheel well in the rear, there's rust. We had started some of that repair back before we parked it in 97. You can actually see that here on the video where that is. And looking at it the other week when I put in the new gas tank we had to put in, I noticed that there was a bunch of rust around the tail lights. So those are going to have to be, or that panel in the back is going to have to be replaced. The floorboards, at least on the driver's side, are rusted through, so got to replace that. There's some weird alignment on the front right fender, which I think was where we, back in the 80s, replaced one of the panels in the engine compartment where the battery sits. It had rusted through and we got a new one. Not sure that was put in quite right, so we're going to have to adjust and fix that. We've got to rewire the whole car. It's the original wiring in that car. So all of that is, or most of that is dried and brittle and needs to be replaced. So we're going to have to put in a whole new wire harness. And we're going to go with a more modern one that has greater capability than the original one. So that it'll have the ability to add things like a modern radio in there, cell phone charger capability, maybe fog lights if we want to put those, but basically it'll be able to handle a bigger load than what the existing one does. So again, that'll make it more safe. Anyway, we just have some big plans. Now, I don't have a lot of money, so we have started this Save the Mustang drive. And I've created a GoFundMe page. So if you want to help save this old classic car for posterity and help us get it back on the road so that, again, future generations can enjoy it, as well as, be able to let my dad get out and drive it. He's no young chicken anymore. He's 70s, 80s years old, but, it'd be fun to see him out there and get a chance to drive it again. So anyway, we've got our GoFundMe page, which we'll show here and provide a link in the bottom. So if you'd like to help donate to the cause to get this Mustang back on the road, we'd really appreciate it. We've also started a merchandise store for the Save the Stang. There we can get t-shirts and hoodies and things that have a little logo we've created for Save the Stang that you can buy and whatnot. So we'd really appreciate all your help. And of course, I'm going to continue to post videos as we go through the process of getting this car restored and getting it back up to speed. I did mention the last weekend, I didn't get any film of this because it was just me doing it, but I did try to go in and replace the thermostat and had issues. The heads on the thermostat, let me back that up. The heads on the bolts on the thermostat housing broke off as I tried to take them out. Then that required me to pull the radiator out, the fan off, the pulleys off, the belts off, so I could get the housing off, and then back those bolts, or what remained of those bolts, out of the holes, which I was able to do, thank God. And then I noticed the housing was cracked too, so I got to put that back together and whatnot. So anyway, we got a lot of work to do in this car. As I said, I'm estimating 15 to 20,000 to get it in there. So, any help y'all can provide, we'd greatly appreciate it. And just make sure you stay tuned to watch as we go through getting this car back, not only in drivable shape, because we should get it back where I can actually get it on the road, but to a real point where it's safe, comfortable, and fun to drive. So with that, we appreciate you, and thanks for all your support.